If you watch a tour pro, hit a perfectly straight 200-yard iron shot, your eyes are actually lying to you.
Yeah, they really are. It's
Yeah.
wild how much our eyes deceive us with this stuff.
Right. Because every traditional golf lesson you ever had probably tells you the exact same thing. To square the club face, you need to, like, actively roll your wrist through impact.
Oh, absolutely. That's the classic advice.
And you watch TV, you see the slow motion replay, and it absolutely looks like that trail hand is aggressively crossing over the lead hand, right, to hit that beautiful draw.
It does. I mean, the human eye is just incredibly susceptible to reverse engineering athletic movement based on what happens after the ball is already gone.
Yeah.
We assume the macro movements, the big sweeping motions of the arms and shoulders are the whole story. But the reality of club face control happens in this mechanical landscape that is completely invisible to the naked eye.
Well, welcome to a deep dive that is going specifically into that invisible landscape.
Yeah.
It's going to fundamentally change how you understand your golf swing. Today, we are exploring the hidden world of golf biomechanics. Our mission is to synthesize a massive stack of sources for you. We're looking at 3D kinematic research, data pulled from over 1 million swings via hack motion, insights from PGA coaching notes, and even clinical data from sports medicine.
It's a lot of data.
It is, and we're going to translate all of that complex science into practical, tour-level insights that you can take straight to the practice tee.
Yeah, and we're focusing specifically on the micromechanics today. So how your wrists and forearms operate in three-dimensional space, why they are the true steering wheel of the golf club.
I love that analogy.
Right, and also the biomechanical realities behind common swing faults and how, forcing the wrong mechanics is likely the root cause of your lower back or elbow pain.
Which is huge for so many amateur players. Now, most of you listening probably already know the basic anatomy of the wrist. We know what a bowed-lead wrist looks like. You see players like Dustin Johnson or John Rahm at the top of their swing with that lead wrist just totally flexed.
Yep, the classic bowed wrist.
And we know what a cupped or extended wrist looks like.
Oh.
But looking at the 3D data, simply bowing or cupping the wrist in a two-dimensional plane isn't really enough to understand what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Because it completely ignores the forearm.
Exactly. The interaction between the wrist and the forearm is really the foundation of the entire swing.
Okay. Break that down for us a bit.
So you have wrist flexion and extension, which is, like we said, bowing and cupping.
Yeah.
Then you have radial and ulnar deviation, which is basically cocking the wrists up and uncocking them down.
Right.
But the third movement, forearm rotation, is the critical piece that binds it all together. This is pronation, turning the palm down toward the ground, and supination, turning the palm up toward the sky.
I think the sources use a great visual for this. Pronation and supination are kind of like turning a doorknob, right?
Yeah, exactly like turning a doorknob.
Yeah.
Or skipping a stone.
And wrist flexion is like revving a motorcycle throttle downward. So our sources outline a biomechanical rule from Dr. Greg Rose at TPI called the open door paradigm. And this really shifts how we should think about the backswing.
It's a game changer.
The rule essentially states you cannot close a door during the downswing that you haven't opened during the backswing.
Right. The open door paradigm really dictates how we create space. For a right-handed golfer, taking the club back, the lead forearm, so the left arm must pronate. The palm has to turn slightly downward.
Okay.
And simultaneously, because both hands are, locked onto the grip, the trail forearm, the right arm, must supinate, turning the palm up.
So taking the club back properly is almost like wringing out a towel, where your left hand turns down and your right hand turns up. And the reason you're doing that is to create a physical gap between your arms and your chest. Right?
Precisely. It sets the club on a functional swing plane, so your rib cage actually has room to rotate. Opening that door early in the takeaway is what allows the body to coil.
And if you don't do that,
If you skip that forearm rotation and just lift your arms straight up, you trap your arms against your chest, you block your body's ability to turn, and the club goes immediately off plane.
okay, so we've wrung the towel, we've opened the door on the backswing. But here is the massive problem that triggers a fierce debate among biomechanists in these kinematics reports.
Oh yeah, the downswing debate.
Yes, because even if you have that beautiful, modern, heavily bowed wrist at the top of your swing, the raw data shows that the club face is still physically open, by about 100 degrees relative to the path the club will take on the downswing.
Which is massive. 100 degrees is huge. The club face is pointing significantly out to the right for a right-handed player. It doesn't magically square itself on the way down just because you bowed your wrist at the top.
Right, it has to be actively squared.
Exactly. And for years, biomechanists debated how this happens, often focusing on a metric developed by Phil Cheatham called handle twist velocity, or HTV.
HTV. That measures the angular velocity of the golf shaft rotating around its own axis, right? Basically, how fast the grip is twisting in your hands as you approach impact.
Yeah, that's it.
I think of it like twisting the throttle on a boat engine to steer. And historically, the sources say players were categorized as either rollers or pushers.
Right, so rollers were players who had an open club face at the top of the swing, so they had a cupped lead wrist. Because the face was so open, they required a very high handle twist velocity.
So they had to aggressively twist the shaft during the downswing to square the face in time.
Exactly. Whereas pushers had a closed face at the top with a bowed wrist, so they had a low HTV. The face was already in a stronger position, requiring way less last-second twisting.
Okay, wait. I need to push back on this a bit because I'm having a hard time squaring this data with reality.
Yeah.
When we talk about handle twist velocity, isn't squaring the face just about rolling your right hand over your left hand through impact?
That's what everyone thinks.
I mean, every piece of conventional wisdom says you release the club by letting that trail hand roll over.
And this is exactly where Jeffrey Mann's high-speed video and 3D research completely shatters conventional wisdom. When we look at the critical late downswing phase, so from when the shaft is parallel to the ground down to the exact moment of impact, the trail forearm actually remains supinated.
Wait. I'm really struggling to picture this. My hands are interlocked on a grip that's maybe an inch in diameter. If my left arm is aggressively rotating to square the face, but my right palm is staying supinated, meaning it's facing up toward the sky, how do my hands not just physically rip apart?
It sounds impossible, right?
Yeah. How can they do two completely opposite things while glued together on the same club?
It all comes down to the complex geometry of the trail arm. Think about the right elbow and the right wrist. During the downswing, your right elbow is bent and tucked against your side. Your right wrist is an extension. It's bent backward, cupped. Imagine holding a heavy tray of food next to your shoulder with your right hand. Your palm is facing the sky. That is supination and extension.
All right, I have the tray of food in my right hand.
Now, your left hand is gripping the club normally. As your left arm pronates and supinates to rotate the shaft, your right hand just stays in that holding the tray position, literally just pushing against the back of the shaft.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because the right wrist is bent backward, it naturally accommodates the rotation of the left arm. The right hand doesn't need to roll over the top of the left hand to apply force. It just pushes from behind.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the right hand is basically acting like a backboard or like a thrust block for the club. It's just supporting the structure, while the left hand is the one actually turning the steering wheel.
Exactly.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
But what about that aggressive right-hand crossover we see on TV, the slow-mo shots?
It's totally real, but the 3D data proves that rolling motion is an entirely post-impact phenomenon.
Post-impact.
Right. The trail forearm remains quiet and supinated through the strike. It only rolls over after the ball is gone, as the extreme momentum of the club head pulls the arms into the follow-through. So, pre-impact club face squaring is almost entirely driven by lead forearm supination and lead wrist flexion.
That is a massive aha moment. So if you go to the driving range today and try to fix your slice by violently rolling your right hand over your left, you are fighting biomechanical reality.
You're trying to fix a pre-impact problem by replicating a post-impact illusion.
And the consequences of forcing that incorrect mechanic go way beyond just a bad scorecard, right? The avid sports medicine data in our sources outlines the physical toll this takes on the body.
It's brutal on the body.
Dr. Veronica Zhao explains that a healthy, powerful golf swing relies on what she calls the summation of speed.
Right, the kinetic chain.
Yeah, I think of the summation of speed kind of like a multi-stage rocket. The massive heavy boosters, the legs, and the pelvis do all the heavy lifting to get things moving. Then they decelerate and drop off, passing the energy to the smaller thrusters in the torso.
Exactly.
And finally, the tiny payload thrusters the arms and wrists fire at the very end to maximize the speed of the club head.
That sequential transfer of energy from the pelvis to the thorax to the arms, and finally the club ensures that the massive forces generated are absorbed safely by your large muscle groups.
But amateur golfers frequently disrupt this sequence, don't they?
All the time.
Yeah.
And it often starts right at setup. If a player has a hunched posture, it physically restricts their thoracic spine from rotating.
And if your spine can't rotate, but your brain knows you still need to move the club away from the ball,
Huh.
you end up swaying laterally off the ball instead of coiling around your center.
And swaying just destroys the transition. If you sway off the ball, your lower body cannot properly initiate the downswing. The multi-stage rocket misfires.
Right, the big boosters fail.
Yep. The big muscles check out, so the arms and wrists are forced to take over way too early. They pull, lift, and throw the club independently from the top of the swing, which is a fault known as casting.
So if the right arm is violently trying to twist the club because of an optical illusion, and the body has swayed so the legs are useless, that kinetic energy has to go somewhere.
It absolutely does.
It's like trying to crack a heavy whip, but instead of using your arm and letting the wave travel down the leather naturally, you try to manually flick the very tip of the whip with your fingers. You're just going to sprain your hand.
That is a perfect analogy. Clinically, that independent arm motion forces the tiny tendons of your forearm and your elbow to absorb massive unsynchronized forces.
Yikes.
Yeah, your elbow is suddenly trying to do the job of your glutes and your obliques. This leads directly to medial epicondylitis, commonly known as golfer's elbow. It also causes severe lower back pain because the lumbar spine is forced to handle sheer twisting forces it was never anatomically designed to take.
So relying on your hands to manipulate the club face the last second isn't just a recipe for a two-way miss, it's a recipe for chronic tendonitis.
100%.
Which brings us to the practical application. How do we actually fix these faults? Because knowing the physics is great, but we need to know how to train the body.
Well, the sources highlight a very common amateur fault that makes proper club face control impossible, and that's getting laid off at the top of the swing.
Right.
This is when the club shaft points off to the left at the top of the backswing rather than parallel to the target line. Coach Shaheen Nakhjavani uses a brilliant analogy here, comparing forearm rotation to an elastic band.
Oh, right. If you max out your forearm pronation too early in the takeaway, meaning you flatten that lead forearm completely just a few feet into the swing, you've essentially stretched that rotational elastic band to its absolute physical limit before you even reach the top.
Exactly. You exhaust your entire range of motion. And because you cannot stretch that elastic band any further in that direction, physics dictates that when you start the downswing, the band must snap back the other way.
The forearms violently rebound into supination.
They have to.
And when the forearms rebound that way, it immediately steepens the shaft, throwing the club over the top. I see this all the time. People try so hard to shallow the club on the downswing, but their backswing structure physically prevents them from doing it.
You're trapped.
Yeah, they have to make a panicked, steep, over-the-top compensation just to hit the golf ball. So how do we rebuild this? Our sources provide some incredibly specific drills. Let's start with the coat hanger drill.
This is a classic. The coat hanger drill provides immediate tactile feedback for proper wrist flexion.
How does it work?
You take a standard plastic coat hanger and hold the straight bottom edge against the grip of a midiron. The hook of the hanger should rest between your forearms.
Okay, got it.
As you swing to the top and come down through the hitting zone, your goal is to press the plastic hanger firmly against your lead forearm.
Ah, I see. So if your lead wrist breaks down into extension, if you cup it, the hanger immediately pulls away from your arm.
Right, you lose that physical contact. But if you maintain pressure against the hanger, it physically forces your brain to feel what a flat or bowed lead wrist actually feels like through impact. It completely eliminates that scooping motion.
That's such a simple but effective fix. Another drill the sources recommend for isolating the forearms is the level shaft rotation drill.
Yeah, the level shaft drill removes the complication of your body's posture and tilt.
Which is helpful because posture messes a lot of people up.
Totally. So for this one, you stand completely upright. Hold a midiron out in front of you, parallel to the ground. Then make small, controlled swings back and forth, keeping the shaft perfectly level with the horizon the entire time.
And to keep the shaft level like that, the only way the club can move around your body is if your forearms and wrists actively rotate. Your body can't compensate by dipping or swaying.
Exactly. You isolate the pure forearm motion. Once you feel that smooth pronation and supination sequence standing up, you just bend from the waist into your normal golf posture, replicate that exact same arm movement, and suddenly you have a tour quality release pattern.
That's brilliant. Now, for players who struggle with a wide-open club face at the top of the swing, the sources mention the watch face check as an excellent transitional cue.
Yes, I love this one. Swing to the top of your backswing and just pause. If you are wearing a watch on your lead wrist, the face of that watch should be pointing up toward the sky.
Okay, so if the watch face is pointing directly at the camera face on, or worse, pointing in front of you, your wrist is cupped and the club face is wide open.
You're right, you're in trouble.
But you can fix it right there by flexing the wrist until the watch faces the sky. It sets the club in a strong position so you don't have to rely on those emergency joint-destroying downswing corrections we talked about.
Exactly. The challenge, of course, is time. Neuromuscular reprogramming does not happen overnight. Changing these micromechanics feels like learning to write with your non-dominant hand.
Yeah, it's super uncomfortable at first. How long does it actually take?
Well, Chuck Hogan, who is a pioneer in golf psychology and motor learning, he stated that to ingrain even the simplest mechanical change, it takes 60 repetitions a day with specific intention and full attention for 21 consecutive days.
Wow. 60 reps, full attention, 21 days. That means
Yeah.
mindlessly raking a bucket of golf balls on the range accomplishes absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. You might actually be making it worse.
Right. Every single swing has to be a deliberate effort to feel that specific wrist flexion or forearm rotation. If you aren't fully focused on the micro movement, you are just reinforcing the old broken pathways.
It requires extreme discipline. But, the payoff is a swing built on biomechanical truth rather than compensation.
So let's pull all of this together for everyone. Forearm rotation and wrist flexion are the true engines of club face control. The lead arm is doing the heavy lifting to square the face before impact, while the trail arm acts as a stabilizing backboard.
Nailed it.
And most importantly, proper biomechanical sequencing from the ground up protects your tendons and your spine from chronic injuries.
And the field of golf kinematics is advancing so rapidly right now. Real-time wearable technology like hack motion sensors that measure wrist angles in 3D space, along with markerless skeletal tracking, they're permanently taking the guesswork out of instruction.
It's amazing.
We no longer have to guess what the wrists are doing. The data tells us instantly.
It really is the end of relying on optical illusions. Well, if you enjoyed today's deep dive, please subscribe to our channel and share it with fellow golfers, coaches, and PGA professionals. If there is a topic you would like us to research, analyze, and discuss in a future deep dive, feel free to send us an email or connect with us through LinkedIn. Whether your interest is golf biomechanics, kinematics, ground reaction forces, swing mechanics, putting, coaching, club fitting technology, or sports science, we would love to hear from you. Our team will review your submission, conduct extensive research, analyze the available evidence, and may create a dedicated deep dive, article, video, or testing project based on your topic. Thank you for being part of the eCoach 360-degree community.
And before we go, I want to leave you with one final thing to ponder. We started today by talking about how our eyes deceive us.
Right.
If the traditional coaching cue of aggressively rolling your wrist through impact is actually a post-impact optical illusion, what other fundamental truths of your golf swing are based on illusions rather than biomechanical reality? Next time you hit the range, ask yourself, are you swinging based on what you actually do or what you only think you see?